Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Studio Series with Jim Linnell. If you tuned into our first one on the series, we discussed Kaz Nakayima. He was a leather carver back in the '70s, and he had some very intricate, very beautiful work. So today we are talking a little bit more about some other Japanese artists. So without further ado, Jim, let's jump into it.
Yeah, let's continue our discussion of the, I guess at this point, the influence that Japan is having on American leatherworking. It's kind of a neat transition that we've seen happen there. The artist we're going to talk about in this set is Akiko Okada. Akiko started out. Interesting story about her. She when I first met her, she was coming to, I think, virtually every leather show over in um, this country, especially the Sheridan Leather Show. She was just absolutely in love with that. And she came back, and I don't remember how long she stayed, but she actually spent Clint Fay, who was co-author with on the book Sheridan Style Leather Carving. Well, he and along with Bill Gardner wrote that book, and she went and stayed at his cabin for, I don't know, it was like 3 weeks or a month. I don't remember what it was, taking one-on-one tutoring from him. And of course, the Fay family, Walt Fay, Clint's dad, are some of the early bigger names that people got to know, and were very influential in developing that style. So
Wow.
Akiko came and learned from them. And then again, as we mentioned in the previous episode, there's something about the nature of many of the folks, of the artists anyway, in Japan that are very focused. They have the ability to, well, they don't have the ability to just try. They only have the ability to do their very best. And Akiko is a great example of that. Her stuff has been examined by many. I've had the privilege of judging it, and had the privilege of having several of her pieces of work here in my studio. And she is just wonderful at it. And I think the thing that I respect a lot about her work is that she is, certainly the Sheridan style influence is there, but she is not just copying what everybody else is doing in that way. She has certainly her own style, her own flow, her own techniques that she applies to it. And so when you look at it, while it's just mesmerizing as far as the beautiful flow and
Yeah.
the elegance of her designs, it does, you don't end up running in circles as some of that Sheridan style stuff might
Right.
do.
And that was what I was gonna say. That first thing that I see is that she has these teardrop shapes and this flow,
Right.
and and then inside of those she has your swirls and your flowers, but it incorporates, I think, what is that, 4 or 5 different types of flowers, a couple different styles of leaves. Um, but it's a very much a the big picture matters as far as that flow and those very symmetrical shapes. But then also when you get down to the details, those decorative cuts and her backgrounding there, and I mean even the scalloping. Um,
Yeah,
it's
she's very,
incredible.
very detailed with her work. They're very much a lot of the way in which this piece of leather is carved is the way that the Sheridan type of carving is. One of the things you see in most of those flowers are the use of a flower center, but she does have another flower in there where you're looking at it at a bit of a side angle. That larger flower
Yeah,
there,
one
where
there,
you're,
bottom
yeah,
left.
where you
Yeah,
have petals in front of the flower center, which is very different for her.
over there
You'll
to
also notice that the scrolls that are in there are very much the Sheridan type of scroll.
the left.
They're just, again, very much of it, the elements are there of the Sheridan style carving, but she's added her own unique flow. Those teardrops you're talking about, like they're to the left, that open area, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I was
That
talking about, the one with the sunflower in the middle. How that the flow kind of makes this teardrop shape. That vine coming around makes that teardrop shape coming out there, and it's flowing very well into that next piece.
Yeah, she's again, she's incorporated a little bit of there's some aspects of it there that I could probably find some Northwest style carving that mimics that a little bit, but very much that is your classic Sheridan in every way. She certainly did that with a bar grounder. Her bar grounding is very, very nice. It's a very fine one, so I doubt that even shows. No matter how close you get, it'll be too pixelated. But she is a very fine one. Heavy use of the mule's foot you see being used there as well. But she's one of those that will put a challenge to anybody that thinks they are like the premier Sheridan style leather carver. I think you'd have to deal with Akiko on that. You notice how that banner there, that welcome banner, how the tail ends of that banner turn into a floral design at the top of that, where it twists out from underneath there. It's just very brilliantly laid out, just very nicely done.
And do you think, we mentioned before in the previous episode and this one that the Japanese artists have their own style. Do you think that this style is due in part to incorporating not just Sheridan, but Northwestern style?
Well,
things like that.
I think this year is heavily influenced with the Sheridan. I don't know that I see a lot of improvising there outside of what might have been borrowed from that, but certainly she's added her own layout. It is unique in that way. She's just very talented. I had her actually teach a class here once at Elk Track Studio. She was here at one of those shows anyway. We drove her home back with us from up at Sheridan, wasn't it? Or no, Oklahoma. Yeah. Anyway, she and taught this class, and she was so self-conscious about her grasp on the English language. She was just so concerned that she couldn't properly communicate all of the details of what she would like people to know and understand, and but that's the way leatherworkers are. Once you get started, people are just very observant, very keyed in. She did an absolutely fabulous job with that class.
Wow, that I would have loved to be a fly on the wall in that class.
Well, and if you'd like to be a fly on the wall at one of these shows, and it might have been that same show up in Oklahoma, we actually had a chance to get her in a corner and do a little bit of an interview with her. And I think we have that saved out on the Elk Track Studio Facebook page. If you'd like to get her, listen to her tell her story about how she got started and what her influences were and so forth. You can listen to the lady yourself. It's really a neat interview, but it's there on our Elk Track Studio YouTube page. So
sure, yeah, we'll put a link in that below, and that way people can hear that story. It's incredible to see these people who. I don't know much about her story, but did she have a background as a leather
I don't know if she had an artist background before that. I'm not sure. I'd have to probably even go back and listen to that again as far as what were the influences. I know where her love is as far as what styling type of work she loves. Yeah. And I know she's built a saddle. She didn't have a horse, but she's built a saddle,
Yeah. And on that first episode, we kind of talked, with about Kaz and this wonderful idea they have of the Wild West and how they try to imitate it and in their work, but some of them may have never been out in Arizona or Texas, or, on a ranch or something. So it's cool to see that just romanticized idea of the West and it portrayed so wonderfully in their work.
We have another image from hers there that will show it. It's a smaller image, or it's a smaller piece of work. It's her it's a trading card
Yeah,
that I did with her. There it is. It's coming on. There it is.
yeah,
That's a
that's
trading card. So you're looking at something that's 2.5 by 3.5 inches, I believe is what
mhm.
the size is. But there
Yep.
again, you get to see her unique style and what she did. This was 2014. Okay. And I don't
Wow.
remember what year it was. I think it might have been 2013. Did I write that somewhere? But she's an Al Stoneman Award winner.
Yeah, it was
She
2013. She won it in
Okay.
2013.
Yeah, 2013. She's Al Stoneman Award winner, and golly, you talk about a little gal that was about to cry, and I say little gal. I bet I'm not. I'm like 5'10" ish now, and she probably comes to like middle of my chest. I mean, she's not very big lady at all,
Wow.
very small. But she, anyway, when she received that award, she just just nothing but humility, and gave
That's
all credit
really cool.
to the folks that taught her. You know.
I've always, because when I first started with leather, and my current job as in charge of a very big leather operation, retailer and wholesaler, but I always had this idea of leather workers, like these, I don't know, good old boys working on their ranch and wearing cowboy hats and probably with a can of dip or something. I don't know, drinking a beer and working on leather, trying to work on a saddle or something for the horse. And it's so incredible to see the diversity that comes with this wonderful craft. And I love to hear about those things. I met a kid, he was probably 12 years old the other day, and he had taken our master craftsman's shop chops. Sorry about that, but he had taken some of his classes, and the things that he was showing me, he made a little coaster, and it was only his second class. I'm like, that's just natural raw talent, and it's incredible to see. But yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I'm alone in thinking that these big burly good old boys are the only ones working with leather when I first started. But
No,
uh, pretty cool.
historically, and I think a lot of folks know, I worked for Tandy Leather for almost 40 years, and
Mhm.
for much of that time, I was, or at least for the last maybe 15 years or so, I was in charge of their marketing efforts there. But anyway, all of that to boil down, that one of the things our demographics taught us was at that time the clientele, or the average Tandy Leather customer was basically a male.
Mhm.
About probably 65% were male, and they were probably in their 40s to 60s. That would have been, if you were to boil down and say, what is your average customer? That would it. But I think today, I think that is drastically changing
Oh yeah,
since I was there. I think today, we have a lot more young folks in there, and they're not doing this kind of leather work. They're doing some amazing things. They're
sure.
doing armor and Comic-Con things and
Yeah,
masks and a whole different type of work, and that's bringing the age level down, and it's also inviting a more feminine crowd. We at Elk Track Studio, we have a couple of ladies that teach classes on a regular basis. Annie Libertini and Cheryl Katsky, they teach
mhm.
classes on a regular basis, and God, their audiences are typically mostly female. They just do wonderful stuff.
That's really
Uh,
cool.
but yeah, there's another piece here that of Akiko's that I wanted to show, which might actually open up a discussion on another future class that we might have, or discussion we have. This here is a piece that she did, and you can see there's other leather work kind of off of it, but you can see that floral carving down at the bottom. Once again, very classic Sheridan-ish type of work, and
Mhm.
just again impeccably done, just very beautifully done. And
Wow.
runs across the bottom of this. Well, what that piece of leather is it's a double shoulder that literally traveled the world. It went around the world, and it's got carved. I honestly don't know how many people, like 25,
Well,
30 different people did
even
leather work on it.
just above there, I see Peter Main's name.
Yeah, that's one of the many that's on there. And again,
That
well,
is that's really
I'm not
cool.
I don't want to talk about all them right now because I could
Sure.
spend the whole rest of our time talking about this piece of leatherwork.
And you have
But
this. This
I,
is in your
yeah,
shop.
this piece of leather is hanging in my shop. Yes, I can get. We'll do that. I'll take you on a world tour one of these times
We
and
need
give you tell you who all we're looking at and what their contributions are.
yeah,
But here
definitely.
again, this here was earlier done too. This here, if you look a little bit closer, this is not quite as precise. Maybe, of course, again, this is well-traveled piece of leather, so I don't know. It may have been a little crisper and cleaner when it was new, but you can see that she's her style and her finesse got a little bit better as she went. And I don't know what kind of quality piece of leather that was. Went
Right.
around. By the
Yeah,
time it
sure.
got to that last person, it probably had been wet and dried out quite a few times. So,
Wow. Yeah. That's a really cool. That's just a wonderful piece. I mean, the stories alone from all the people on there, and then especially with traveling as far as Japan and coming back.
oh yeah,
That's a really cool piece.
it is. I promise you that. We'll just leave that as a tease for anybody that's watching this. You better come back because you're going to miss a really
Yeah,
neat
right.
segment at some point.
We'll have to get you one of those like 360-degree cameras that you can walk around your shop with, and people can
Oh,
like
good
pause
Lord.
the
Yeah.
video
It'd be like a GoPro type thing,
yeah, right.
Well, you can see, I'm sitting here in front of the camera, but you can see what's on my wall behind me here. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a interesting place. Most
Yeah,
people have a hard time just walking through here real quick. So,
sure.
but anyway,
Right.
that's Akiko Okada, and very proud to call her my friend. I over there I have where I have my refreshments that sometimes get opened up late in the day. I think I still have a bottle of sake that she brought me from Japan that has been nursed along. She's
Okay.
what whenever we see her, she always has a gift.
Yeah.
That's a very Japanese thing. Is there's always a gift that has to be given, and it's just amazing. And I don't know, you can maybe see now, not too much. Anyway, my tables here, I have everybody autograph the table whenever they are here to take a
Yeah.
class or teach a class. And yeah, you can see there behind my the tools over here. You can see that a table with some autographs on it. So anyway, Akiko's on one of those somewheres, and it's written in
Cool.
Japanese. So
Wow, that's really neat. That's a cool thing to have. So
So anyway, well, that's just one of the many artists. We have some more that we'll show, but I think that may have to be for another segment. I don't know how long
okay,
we've been going today, but
sure. Well,
but
yeah, we'll kind of pause that there, and then we'll start with another segment here,
shortly.
following up with some more Japanese artists. So cool.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
Yep.